Welcome back to another episode of the Advanced Colorado Rundown. I'm Kristi Burton Brown, Executive Vice President here at Advanced Colorado, and today I'm joined by Douglas County Sheriff Darren Weekly. Thanks so much for joining us, Sheriff.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and we'd love to get your perspective on public safety across Colorado. I know in Douglas County you have a unique perspective because it's one of the safest places in Colorado. I just saw a list of the 10 safest cities in Colorado, and several of them are all in Douglas County where you're the sheriff. So what do you do to keep Douglas County so safe?
You know, I'm very aggressive in terms of crime fighting. I grew up in that agency. I came up through the ranks. I worked in nearly every rank in every division of that office. And so I know how that office runs. And I also know what's important to our community. And Douglas County is still, it's an anomaly with the rest of the Denver metro area. And I believe in crime fighting and putting bad guys in jail where they belong.
Right. No, that's so true. And I mean, we have the U.S. News and World Report recently coming out, I think in May of 25, saying Colorado is the second most dangerous state in the nation. So it is really great for the people of Douglas County to have that pocket of a safe place to live. And I think it's why it's also a growing county in Colorado with so many people fleeing Denver and other places coming into Dougco. Do you ever hear from other police chiefs or sheriffs around the state that wish they could have different policies, or how much do they feel they're controlled or restrained by state law or policy? What do you think that experience is?
You know, there's a lot of variables that play into that. Douglas County, I truly feel, has set the bar for law enforcement in Colorado. You know, the city of Aurora, they have a good police chief now that really is a crime fighter. He's got the credentials and backing, came from LAPD, and he's starting to put into policies the same things that Douglas County is doing, and just being aggressive with crime fighting. And it's amazing when you put bad guys in jail, they don't want to commit as many crimes. But Douglas County has been one of the fastest growing counties for decades, and so we are still able to play essentially defense with crime and keep crime out of Douglas County, and that's a game changer. And you know, when I took office, you know, I swore that I was going to keep Douglas County, and a lot of people didn't know what I meant by that at the time. They do now, because we're very transparent on our crime fighting efforts. Before that, people really had no clue. Sometimes I might hear something. We're showing folks now, you know, if you don't lock up your car, you're going to get your car broken into, you know, lock up your house. But we do find bad guys. We track them down and we arrest them, and we'll show foot pursuits, car pursuits, things like that. Because I want the reputation in Douglas County with criminals that if you come into Douglas County and you commit crimes, we're actually going to chase you and we're actually going to put you in jail. And what's sad is, and I'm a Colorado native, what is sad is, you know, again, we've become the anomaly, and there's not very many agencies and communities where there's actually consequences when people commit crimes. There is in Dougco.
Yeah, which I think is essential. As a resident of Dougco myself, I actually recently saw one of those videos you're talking about on social media where you're showing chasing down someone who is violating the law. And I think I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, but I think you're right. That would send a warning out to other criminals, like this is not a place to operate, which is great for my family. So thank you.
Yeah, it has actually been captured on body cam many times when criminals say to my deputies, I knew I shouldn't have come to Douglas County. And their response is usually, tell your friends.
Yeah, make sure they all know. Okay, so I'd like to ask you, Sheriff, about a few specific public safety issues that we've seen the legislature, you know, either fail to strengthen laws on, or we at Advanced Colorado, we run some ballot measures trying to strengthen those laws that the legislature refuses to, and fentanyl is one of them. Drug dealers don't necessarily serve jail time if you're selling fentanyl. Depends on the amount. Obviously, the really high-level dealers go to jail, but a lot of mid-level dealers and low-level dealers get out on probation and just don't have to have mandatory jail time, and so they continue to sell drugs in Colorado. What's your perspective on fentanyl and changes that would be essential?
I've been a cop for 32 years, and I have never seen a drug that is more deadly than fentanyl. We are losing people in my community. We're losing teenagers in my community. Kids can go to a house party and buy a fentanyl pill for $2 or $3, and they have no idea what they're taking. It could, you know, they could be going out partying with friends and they're dead. And you know, it's sad and it's scary. I do think a lot of this has been with the previous administration's open border and everything that goes with that. But we're doing what we can in Douglas County to fight it. But again, I have never seen anything like fentanyl in my career. And hopefully this ballot measure that we're putting up is going to pass. It's pretty sad when you have to go to the ballot box to pass common sense bills or laws. It's mind-boggling.
And most of the measures we run, as you know, were tried at the legislature, but the liberals who control the legislature decide, usually to kill it in the House Judiciary Committee. But they're popular among the people because, to your point, like people know their kids are being exposed to fentanyl at parties. They know almost everyone that we've talked to knows someone who's died from fentanyl or almost died from it.
Absolutely, it's common sense, and I go down to the Capitol a lot during the session, and it's when I go down there dressed like this, I feel like the enemy. I feel like the bad guy. They looked at, not all of them, but many of them just look at me with contempt. They'll roll their eyes during my testimony. I'm very respectful, but I'm very upfront and candid about crime in Colorado. They don't want to hear that.
That's insane. No, and I mean, it reflects itself in the bills that they kill and the bills that they pass, siding with criminals over victims, that clearly they do have a disdain for law enforcement. And no wonder we're the second most dangerous state in the nation.
Exactly.
That's what you get when you dismiss law enforcement, unfortunately.
Yep.
What about sanctuary state status in Colorado? It seems to me every year the legislature passes a new bill strengthening Colorado's sanctuary state status. And I think the most disturbing piece of it is that there's not even exceptions for violent and repeat criminals, people who we know are dangerous to our community and here illegally. But the state has really tied the hands of law enforcement, from my understanding. What's your general perspective on that?
100%. Obviously, the sheriff is responsible for the jail. I have about 400 inmates, give or take, on any given day. The last time I looked, I had about 50 inmates with ICE detainers that we cannot honor. Not only can we not honor that, we can't communicate with ICE at all about these people being in our custody. And these are people that have already committed crimes within our state, or they have warrants outstanding in our state. And the fact that I can get fined as the sheriff $50,000 and my employees can get fined $50,000 for violating that is absolutely absurd.
And that was the latest law passed by the legislature just this last session, saying exactly that. And I think the Attorney General, Phil Weiser, at least started to go after a deputy in another part of the state and said he was going to prosecute him and go after him for $50,000. I think I heard he pulled that back, probably after a lot of public pressure. But that is exactly what the law allows, is a fine of $50,000 for law enforcement officers who are attempting to keep people safe. So it's disturbing.
It's just sad to see what happened to Colorado. I'm a native, and it's a wonderful state, but it has just been destroyed over the last decade.
So true.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Let's see. Another issue that has come up a lot, and I haven't seen any in your area of the state in the stories, but I assume you have a perspective on it. The mental incompetency laws in Colorado. I think Governor Polis just signed one in 23 or 24, basically requiring DAs to drop charges if a criminal defendant is found permanently mentally incompetent. And I think people have seen the stories from Aurora, from Weld County, from El Paso. These are people kidnapping kids or attempting to kidnap them, killing people, and the DAs are forced to drop charges. So do you have an opinion on the mental incompetency laws in Colorado and what that does to law enforcement?
It's been a challenge for us for decades, even before that law was passed, to actually get these people to go to court, go to trial. But the law that was recently passed, again, we're in another situation where it just fails common sense. You have an individual that's dangerous, in the Weld County situation, somebody trying to attack a child, kidnap a child, and they're like, we're just going to let them go. It just fails all common sense. So we need to do something, whether that's repealing that law or readdressing it. Competency is a real issue.
Sure.
Many of the people in my jail, they have substance abuse problems, mental health problems, you name it, because the state of Colorado is so bad with dealing with mental health. We're horrible. We've got to be at the bottom of the barrel. That when we have criminals that engage in criminal conduct, for the state to say that we're not going to hold people accountable for their actions anymore, we're just going to let them go back out into the communities. Again, maybe something we need to go to the ballot box in the future to fix.
No, and that's something we're actually looking at. Is apparently the legislature is going to consider addressing it next session, at least is what I've heard. But if they don't successfully address it, I think that's something that would be very popular on the ballot because, once again, criminals are being chosen over victims.
Well, I think when these absurd laws that are being passed start to affect the everyday Coloradan who is just trying to make ends meet, raise their kids, and you see the nonsense that's gone on. I truly feel that the 2025 legislative session is going to be a turning point for Colorado. I really do, because I think some of the absurd laws that have been passed that are affecting everyday Coloradans, I think it's gone too far. And I think the average citizen is seeing it.
Yeah, I certainly hope that's true. I think if they're not feeling it themselves personally right now, they will be in the very near future. Because to your point, they just keep encroaching a little bit more on people's lives, and you see it right in front of you in your neighborhood, at the grocery store, wherever you are, both on economic and public safety policies. I think there's so many other public safety issues we could definitely cover. You'd be an expert on all of them. But is there any last one on this podcast that you would point out that maybe people aren't thinking about or should focus on even more that you would say is affecting lives here in Colorado?
Well, I think it's the whole bail reform that we have experienced here in Colorado. When I was a deputy sheriff in a patrol car back in the mid-90s, arresting bad guys, when I would arrest a bad guy on multiple charges, the bond amounts would be much higher back in the mid-90s than they are now.
Wow.
It would be shocking for people to know how many people, even people with a criminal record, get released right back out onto the street on a PR bond, a personal recognizance bond. So that's not putting up any cash, that's not putting up any security, that's not putting up anything. They just sign and they're out. Most Coloradans would be shocked, even in a community like Douglas County. It's happening on a daily basis. People who are arrested need to be held accountable. There's got to be consequences for your action. So when I talk bail reform, I'm talking there needs to be, depending on what level of offense you commit, you have to, and as well as your criminal history, you need to put X amount as a security or money deposit. As simple as that sounds, I think that would make a huge difference on crime in our state, because there would be actual consequences for committing criminal acts, and you don't just get to go right back out on the street.
That makes a lot of sense. Those people that get out on PR bonds, are you often seeing them reoffend?
We are on a regular basis. People with stolen vehicles, people with warrants. There's just no consequences for your actions anymore. When we were growing up, our parents taught us if you do something wrong, there's consequences for your actions. Well, not if you're in the state of Colorado. In the state of Colorado, you can commit crimes repeatedly and get released right back out on the street.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sheriff Weekly, for fighting on the front lines, regardless of how hard the state makes it. And we appreciate how safe you keep Douglas County. So thanks for being on our podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to another episode of the Advanced Colorado Rundown. Join us next time.